Hello everyone, Doug Hansgate here. Thought that I would cover something which a lot of people have been covering lately, which is the new Remove tool, both in Lightroom and Photoshop. So with our Transform Tuesday today, without further ado, let's jump into some images and see what this tool can actually do. So I brought up a fairly basic image here, and just wanted to, kind of explore the potential with this image, and thought that we could try this here as a starting point. So what I'm going to do is start off with our basic new mode. Here's our basic new content aware. And I'm just going to zoom in on this a little bit. We have just a couple of whistling ducks here, and probably too much. So let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. And maybe even here to 50%. So I just want to get rid of this twig, and fairly easy to take care of. Let's try it without using content aware. Let's try it with just our regular heal tool. And I just want to see, again, as always, I don't always prep. I don't practice on images before I do these classes. I think it's more valid if people see some of the mistakes that I make and how I might correct it. So I'm just kind of one big sweep here and covering all of that stick. And you see, it didn't do a great job, right? It tried to heal it from a source over here, and it didn't know what to make of the front of this whistling duck. So probably not the best option. I'm just going to delete that one. Let's try, clone stamp is certainly not going to work, but let's try our regular mode now of content aware. Now, here's the thing with content aware. If I don't hold my mouse down and sweep this stick in its entirety, let's stop there. You'll see that it automatically tries to repair it as soon as I'm done. So when I take my mouse off to show you, we've got some problems with the whistling duck's chest, and not a great option. So what I would have to do, though, is to literally, without moving that, take and find another location and do some more stick work over here and say, look, I actually want this removed too. Can you see what you can do with that? And it will do a better job down here just because it's a little bit easier. But what you see, we still have some extraneous things going on over here that are not so great. So what I'm going to do is just take and get rid of both of those. And I'm going to turn to Generative AI instead. So this is the early access Generative AI. Now there's a couple advantages with this. I'm going to make my mouse just a little bit bigger. So a bracket key to make it a little bit bigger. And what I'm doing is going to show you that I can stop, and you'll see that it highlights the area that I want to make the content aware fill work on, the AI fill. But I also have over here this refinement mask, so I can add to that. So I could continue to do this in stages with sweeps to my mouse and say, look, I really want all of this, and I can pick my mouse up and move it, and I can say, look, I even want this stick removed over here, and I'd like this stick gone, and remove all of those sticks. So because of the fact that we can refine that mask, I can add or subtract. Hit subtract, and I could say, well, maybe I want this stick over here, right? Or I want to add it back in. So we have the ability to do that. And then you just hit apply, and it's going to use the Generative AI to do this replacement, which is pretty Pretty amazing that we're actually to this point in a very short period of time, but look at the amazing results that we got with that. So that one was fairly simple, but yet generative AI in Lightroom was able to handle that fairly easily. So I would think that this would be a fairly strong attribute for people that are doing general editing. So, for example, let's just look at this one for a second. And so we have some terrible sticks over the top of this great egret, and I'd like to get rid of them. I use generative AI, and I can say, look, I really want to get rid of this, and I need to have that go on. And I need to have this go on. And you know what? I really would like to not have this stick interfere, or this one. So I'm just painting the sticks that I want to remove from my scene. And I'm going to be pretty particular down here. I'm going to say, look, I want some of these sticks, but maybe I don't want any of this stick at all. So let's see if we can't get rid of that. And then let's just break this down here at this point and get rid of that as well. So I'm being, pretty aggressive. I'm challenging this image to see what we can come up with. And while we're at it, we might as well add this too, because nobody wants to stick across that leg. And then let's just try apply and see what happens. It does take a couple minutes, but not a bad rendition. But let's see what the other renditions look like. It gives you several variations, just like we do with generative AI in Photoshop. So here is variation 2, which I like better because the breast feathers are better. I don't like 3 at all, but I like 2. So 2 is not bad. Now, that doesn't mean that I have to live with this, right? I could just take and delete this and try to run it again and see what else is available. But let's just close this for a second. And what I'm going to do is reset this image. Just go to Auto, and let's take this over into Photoshop. So I'm just going to hit Command E or Control E and send it over to my Photoshop. I probably should have had Photoshop open, but it doesn't take long on this machine. Let's see what we get here. I'm going to just move my head position. So now in Photoshop, the new tool is it looks a little bit different, right? So this is the spot healing brush tool. And here is the healing brush. And where is the remove tool? Well, apparently I haven't put on this machine yet. So what I need to do is come down to the very bottom of your toolbar, click on the 3 dots, and then come over and say, Edit my toolbar. And when we do that, this customized toolbar shows up to tell me this is what's actually on my toolbar. These are the toolbars that are the tools that I have available. And let's take a look to see where our new remove tool is. So it is in with the spot healing. I prefer to actually have it out. So what I'm going to do is just click and drag it and make it so that on my toolbar, it is a separate icon over here. So that's all you do to do that. Let's go ahead and now grab this tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to take a look at those twigs again. And this time we're using Photoshop to do essentially the same trick. Now you notice that it did not allow me to add to that remove selection. As soon as I lifted my mouse, it went ahead and did what I wanted it to do. And you say, well, that's not a bad option, but maybe you really want to refine that edge. Well, in order to do that, you need to come up here and you see this little check mark where it says remove after each stroke. Remove after each stroke. If you uncheck that, now you have a plus and minus sign right up here. And so now I can say, look, let's take and get rid of this stick. And let's get rid of this stick. And the plus sign is active. So my plus sign now is allowing me to work just like I would if I was in Lightroom and adding to this through the refine, adding to this each and every time that I stroke. So now I have the selection made that I want for my AI generative refill, and I just go ahead and do generative remove, AI remove. It's using the generative engine, so people want to call it the remove tool, and it's doing AI remove. That's great, but it's really using the generative AI engine to do that. And so here I have my remove done, and you notice that there's no over here. I'm not seeing in the properties. I'm not seeing all of the effort that it went through to do a select subject and or generative regen over here. So the difference is that this is great if you want to do small little things. If you want to get rid of this stick and you want to get rid of this stick, then this remove tool will work very nicely for you. It's using generative AI to do it, but you're not going into this whole generative AI window. And it's basically just acting as a touch-up tool. So pretty neat. If I were to go back and do this differently, let's go to the beginning here. Let's go ahead and select rather than me using a retouch tool. I'm going to go over here and just use my selection brush, and I'm going to get a little bit smaller brush, and I'm going to just go ahead and say select, and I want to continue to select. Now you notice the colors are different, right? This selection process is a little bit different than it would be had I used, and I can get a little bit smaller and say, look, I really want this stick gone, and I want this stick gone, and let's take this all the way back to here. And maybe even take this. I'm kind of going a little bit crazy here with this, but let's just see how in depth this would be. Now, instead of using the remove tool, I have to come up to my generative fill, generative AI, and I'm just going to hit generate. Now you may find, like in this case, that the generative AI works a little bit cleaner for some of the edges. You notice the stick up here doesn't have any of those rough transitions, and my feathers look good. On top of that, I get my variations, so I could say, look, I like that variation, or I kind of really like that variation. So I have my variations for the generative fill as well. So pretty interesting, right? That we can actually do that. I'm not going to save this. I'm just going to jump back over to Lightroom for a second. And let's look at another image, which I thought was a little interesting. So, young lady with her horse, and you say, ah, the fence, if only the fence wasn't there. Well, now let's go ahead and try a couple of methods. I know that I probably don't want to just use my repair tool. I'd rather go to my generative AI. And part of the reason is that I can hold shift, and then just select that whole bar. So click, shift, select that bar. I'm going to finish it off. Click, shift, select that. Click, shift, select that. Click, shift, select that. Click, shift, select here. Click, shift, select here. And you see I'm missing the top edge of that. So I'm going to just click on the outside edge and come back in to the point where I come here. Click, shift. I could have gotten a bigger mouse to do that. But again, just to, and you see I instead of shift or clicking first, I hit the shift in between, so it dragged over. So all of the fence, other than this little section here. And you notice that I try to go beyond where the fence is. I want to include her elbow, for example. I want to give my AI a chance to understand that I want this to stop at that hairline, to stop at the hairline. And let's just go ahead and do this and see what it does. Again, sometimes it'll take a little bit longer depending on the size of your image and your speed of your computer and whether you're using high-end graphics cards and things like that. And this is taking a little bit of time because of the amount of the area that I'm also asking it to do, plus the size of this file. This is a full size JPEG, I believe. I always want to do a song and dance when this is going on. But you do not want to hear me sing, and you definitely don't want to see me dance. So we'll just wait for it. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I don't love the black that it added in here, but I can understand why it did. And we still have a little bit of a pole. But this pole is not a problem for those of you that don't use Photoshop. Just simply go ahead, click, drag a new one, and go ahead and just apply it again. And you see it got rid of that other pole. Now, if I was really pedantic, I might say, look, there's a little bit of a pole through here, and can we fix that? And just continue to do this generative remove until my fence is gone. And you see it did a really nice job. I think I'm going to just get that little bit of a shadow of a fence over there. Kind of amazing. If you think about how long this would have taken me to do in years past, I am just flabbergasted with how easily I can remove fences and do things like this. So, photo cleaned up a little bit. There's a road back here. If I wanted to, I could get rid of the road as well and just say, look, let's get rid of this road, and I'm going to, you see, I've caught his ear, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna, because it may use that ear as part of that generative remove. So I'm going to take that ear out of it. And if I need to, I would clean it up later afterwards. Don't love what it did there, but let's look at version 2. Let's look at version 3. It tried to make stones out of it, which is better than what we had before. I could go over it again, but I won't even worry about it. So pretty amazing that we can do that with generative fill. Now, let's take another image, and again, I'm going to kind of challenge Photoshop some here. So this was on one of my equine workshops that I run. And so here we have Mira in the foreground, and one of my clients who was out in the field with us taking photos of these wonderful Frisians. But let's say that I don't want to have her in this photo. Well, the easiest thing to do might be to try our remove tool. So we come over and say, here's the remove tool. And the way the remove tool works is kind of fascinating in and of itself, because I don't need to cover all of this young lady with my remove tool. All I need to do is go around the outside of her, make certain that I get all of her, and when I finish, you'll see that it automatically fills her in. So let's just go ahead and say okay, and let's just remove her. Now it changed my Frisian's horse nose a little bit, right? So let's back out of that. Let's do this again, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it on its own layer. So I'm going to make a new layer. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose Sample All Layers so that I can use that Remove tool, but have it on its own layer so that I can fix it later. So what I'm going to do is go around the outside again very quickly. Grab her camera. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to try not to have as much of the horse, but now I can go to my minus tool and I can zoom in on my subject. So let's zoom in and say, oh, you know what? You forgot a piece of this, a piece of this lens. And you also have this horse that you may want to remove from this remove tool selection. Well, I can click on the negative and actually just make my brush smaller and come here and start to say, look, I really don't want you to mess with the horse's nose. But I do want you to add this. Now that means that I would need to go back to the plus to add this. Well, the easier way is if you would like to remove something, just hold the Alter option. And now I have the remove tool. When I let the Alter option up, I can replace it. So add, it stays with the add. Holding the Alter option takes us to the negative tool, and therefore I can just move through my image and make certain that everything is the way I want it. And now let's go ahead and just hit Generate Remove. And you see it did a much better job of removing her because I was a little more careful with the selection of my Frisian's nose. And so if we come back out and we look, that's pretty nice. It's pretty sweet. And I can literally go ahead now and say, what if I were to clean up this, and now I can clean up this to fix this. If I want to get rid of the fence line in here, easy enough. I can just go ahead and say, look, I'd really like to get rid of this fence line. So I'm going to just do that and do here. I'm going to click Shift and drag over, click Shift and drag over, click Shift and drag over. And I missed that last one, but that's okay. And again, I'm trying to move quickly, but you could and get this fence line a little bit better. Shift click, get that. Just get rid of that a little bit. And then let's go ahead and do a generative remove. And fence is much better. I could still come back in here and do a little bit of work to fix this area and fix this area. Get rid of this stake. Maybe touch that again. And just do this as many times as you need to change this up the way you want. If you don't like this hay that's been cut back here, now I've messed up on our Frisian's back a little bit, so I'm glad that I've done this on this layer, because reality is that it's easy enough for me to go ahead and just put a mask on that layer and paint with black and say, look, you know, let's fix this, and come back and then come back and fix this again through another generative AI. Now, because this is already masked out, I would need to go to a brand new layer, go back to my remove tool, and let's do this in a little bit smaller increments and see if it does a better job. If you don't want to add and you want to just do little locations, just turn on remove after each stroke. And then we just have a little spot here we need to fix on the back of our horse. And you can see it's not quite right, but if I were to just do this, it's going to fix it. It changed the coloration a little bit, but it did fix the back pretty nicely. So overall, I have to say that I'm really impressed with the new remove tool. There are so many things that I want to show you in the future with this, and things that we can do to make this even more powerful. And I'll be bringing those to you over the next couple of weeks. It's really beneficial if you start using frequency separation in Photoshop. And just a benefit for our Lightroom users in general, because it is so easy to get rid of common problems, common mishaps that you might run into while you're out there shooting, and just want to be able to fix them easily. So hope this has been helpful to you, and I will see you next week. Thanks.